Hi, my name's Ori with MMH Productions. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about communicating with your crew, specifically with your DP or your camera operator or your assistant camera. One thing that's really tough is understanding the jargon, especially if you haven't gone to film school, which didn't go to film school. I've got a background in the arts, but film school was not part of it. And you want to communicate as a director, you want to communicate what you want to happen. And the pitfall for a lot of time that I fell into is everything's a pan. If I want the camera to move, it's a pan. Well, a pan is not as simple as that. And although oftentimes, actually all the time on our teams, the camera operator, director of photography, etc. I'll just say camera operator from now on, not to insult anyone, but just to keep from doing that over and over again, is very, very, very understanding, and they kind of get what I mean and then move forward. However, there is a level of competency that feels pretty good when you know what camera operations are and what the movements are and how to communicate more effectively so that everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. So the first thing is everything that happens is not a pan. This is a pan. It's sweeping from side to side, and I'm using my handy prop here. And it's the only one because I'm really forbidden from touching cameras, really. But this is a pan. It's sweeping from side to side. If you want to go from one side of a room to another, or if you want to go from one side of a set to another, or nice and steady and smooth, that's a pan. That's the only thing that's a pan, contrary to my instinct. So what is it if you want the camera to move back and forth like this? I apologize for the Band-Aid. If you want it to go in and out, and it's not a zoom, which was my second choice, is I zoom in. Now that when it's moving steadily back and forth, it's called a dolly. You're going to dolly in or dolly out. And that is for the forward and backward motion. So maybe you're going in for a close-up and then dollying out to a two shot or maybe a medium shot or even all the way out to a wide shot. So that's dolly. And I have really silly ways of thinking of things sometimes. So for me to keep that in my head, I'm like, give me my dolly. Oh, that's a scary dolly. Give me my dolly. Oh, that's a scary dolly. Okay. I know, it's kind of goofy, but I remember it. If you don't remember it that way, or if you want to make fun of me, that's okay, but that's how my mind works. Now the other thing, if you want the camera to move up and down, so you want to maybe do a toe to head, or a head to toe, or outer space to planet Earth, or whatever you want to do, that's called a boom, or a jib shot. So up and down, up and down, up and down. And that usually requires specific equipment like a special arm or a crane, but I'm not going to get into that because that is outside my realm of thought. So the way that I think of that is kind of like a bomb. It's like, boom. I need a... I apologize, but that's, again, how I think. Now, what happens when you want the camera to... You don't want it to pan. You want to move it. Sorry, I'm getting notifications. We're going to have to put up with that. But like you want it to change lanes. You want it to go sideways, this way or that way, or this way or that way. Again, not a pan. I don't want a pan. I want smooth. So that's called a truck. And I think about that specifically like changing lanes, like a truck changing lanes. And so it's a nice, smooth kind of back and forth, and kind of is my word for the day or my phrase for the day. So you'll just have to work with it. There are two more basics, and I'm sure there are hundreds of more, but the other one is a roll. Now, I can't say that that's a camera movement that I've utilized a whole lot, but a roll is kind of like a pivot. I want the camera to roll this way or that way, sunrise, sunset. And it doesn't really need a cute reminder because that's really kind of what it is, rolling it this way or that way. So I don't really need to think too hard about how can I cutely remember that. And the last one that I want to talk about, and this is one that is kind of interesting, and I have used it some, and again, it's not a pan, but it's very similar to a roll, but it's a tilt. And again, you don't need a cuteness factor for that, because a tilt is just keep it and tilting down and tilting up on a pivot. So the actual movement, ones are the dolly, the boom, and the truck. But the pivots, or the things where you want the camera to be fixed and kind of scan, I guess, but staying fixed, is a pan, a tilt, and a roll. So I don't know how helpful that is for you guys, but it was really helpful for me to be able to communicate a little bit more efficiently with your crew, and to sound like you have some semblance of an idea of what it is, so that they're not saying, well, what? So you want it to do, yeah. Okay, so I am hoping that this was a little bit helpful for you guys that are relatively new, and hopefully it was entertaining for you guys that are not relatively new. But I'm sure that everybody can agree that communication and really getting your point across from both sides is great. And that works in both directions, because your director of photography is going to communicate things to you to kind of suggest something that might work. And it's best to do that if you're using the same language. And out of respect for the hard work that people operating the equipment have, it's a really good idea to take the time to understand what those terms are, and it makes life easier for everybody, and it makes you feel better. So thanks for your time, and I will talk to you soon.